Okay, so thank you both so much for joining. You've chosen to partake in a mediation today. If you could please introduce yourselves and your pronouns and the name you would like to go by in this mediation session, that would be helpful.
Hi. Okay. How long ago? Go ahead.
No, I leave my sister start her presentation first.
So Chara, you mean
Just your names. Yeah,
the names, the character we play, or our real names?
the character.
Hi, I'm Annie, our sister to Michael. Yeah.
Very good. And you're comfortable with being called Annie today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And
Okay,
Michael?
I am Michael, and I think we are here today to. I don't know. I would like to know from you, what are we expecting to be doing here today? We know there is
Yes.
we have a difference between Annie and me on how to deal with our father's land farm.
Yes, and I'm
Are
going to
you
give you
offering solution
I'm going to
for us?
give you a chance in a second to explain kind of, your perspective. But first I'm going to explain the process of mediation just so you understand and what we're doing here today and what to expect from the process. So this is a mediation session that you've chosen to partake in. Mediation is an opportunity for you to have control over the process and the outcome of today's session. It's completely voluntary and it's completely confidential. So whatever you say here will stay here unless any part of it needs to go to the courts. But in this case, I don't believe that's necessary. And you'll notice that I might be taking notes during the session, but all of that will be destroyed. It's just to help you through the process. I, as a mediator, am impartial, so I'm not here to take sides or tell you who's right or wrong. I'm purely here to help guide the process, to help make this easier for you to reach an outcome that is suitable for both of you. Do you have any questions so far? No. Okay. So the way that this session is going to look is we'll start with a joint session and I'll ask each of you to share your perspective on what the problem is. I have a little bit of background on kind of why we're here today, but I'd like to hear from each of you why we're here. That's called a joint session where we're all present, but there might be an instance where we need to, take a break or talk one-on-one. And if that happens, I'll let you know and we'll move into kind of separate breakout rooms. But that's the general structure of the mediation. And then if we are able to reach an agreement, we will put that in writing together so that whatever is put down on paper, you will approve while we're here together today. And, if we don't reach an agreement, you can always look for another outlet outside of mediation, but this is really an opportunity and the best way for you to have control over the outcome. I want to make sure that all of the decision makers are also here today. So if you could just confirm if you are the decision makers in this process, or if anyone else needs to be present to reach an agreement here today.
No.
Just one
No.
question.
You have a question?
Yeah. If we happen to reach an agreement,
Mhm.
we signed a paper with that agreement, are we both bound to fulfill it?
Yes, you're both bound to fulfill
And
that
who can
agreement.
enforce that?
You two, or we can also have a follow-up session to ensure that what you agree to today is being followed. But really, it's up to you to make sure that you're following through, and what we put into the agreement, if we reach one, would include, very specific timeframes, dates, if necessary, to ensure that what goes on that paper is actually workable and feasible for you both.
Okay.
What if we're not able to arrive at an agreement? What then happen next?
If you can't arrive at an agreement, it's most likely that this case will have to be litigated in the courts. So we can file this with the court, whatever agreement you come to today. But this is not going to be a legally binding document. It will be up to you both to see it through.
Okay.
All right. And the only other thing I'll say about confidentiality, the only exception or reason that that would break is if either of you say that you are going to harm yourselves or each other or myself, in which case I would have to report that. But otherwise, everything that is said here is confidential. Do you have any
And,
questions so far?
no, I agree with the confidentiality. So in my understanding is the agreement will be between my sister and I, with no third intervenient, including her husband.
Correct. This is purely between the two of you. And if someone else needs to be brought in, then we need to discuss that here today. Are we
Yeah.
ready to move forward?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. But just to be clear, your husband is not a decision maker in this process, correct? You don't need him
No.
to sign off. Okay. Okay. So with that, that's kind of the overview, and now we can begin. Who would like to start and just share your perspective? And I'll just ask that there be no interruptions. You will each have a chance to speak. So who would like to go first?
My brother can.
Okay, Michael.
Me first? Okay, I can go first. Well, we sadly have lost our father, who had a farm, and I was working in her farm, in this farm with him, for years and years and years. And we were working on the basis of, I did the work together with my father, and then we shared all what we earned, all our earnings we shared with my sister. So this has been working very well for many years. And he has died sadly without a testament. So now we are obliged to share the farm itself. So half of it will not be productive without the other half. And I am willing to work on my own and to give half of the earnings to my sister. It seems that she has all the plans on this land. I believe that this is very good for her, very advantageous for her, what I am suggesting. It has been working very well until now. I don't really see the issue, the reason why it should change.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So I'm just gonna share what I heard from your side. So your father has just passed. I'm so sorry for both of you. And my understanding is that there is no will that he left to the two of you. But you had worked the farm for many years with him, and during that time you shared the earnings with your sister Annie. And now that he has passed and there's no will put in place, what you would like to see happen is that half of the earnings continue to go to your sister, correct?
Yeah, I suggest to keep sending her the half of the earnings. Yeah.
Okay. And you would like to continue to work the farm that you've been working for many years. You did mention that half of it won't be productive, is that correct? Because of your father's loss?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But even so, you'd like half of the earnings to go to Annie. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we give Annie a chance to speak?
Well, no, I would like to hear what Annie says and then maybe respond.
Okay. Annie?
Yeah, hi. So we lost our father a year ago. I'm married, and my husband lost his job. Our dad used to support me every month with some money so that I can help my husband take care of the kids. I have two boys in the university, and the girl that my daughter is about to get married. And so I desperately need some money to sort out these things because the boys in questions are Michael's nephews, and your niece is about to get married. All I'm asking is some support, like financially, to be able to do all these things. And the last time we tried, talking about this, there was a fight and all that. Michael was upset, blah, blah, blah. And so I guess that's why we are here, because we've been communicating through our solicitors ever since. And so I only hope this mediation is going to help trash issues out, but I desperately need help to be able to take care of my boys and help my daughter arrange her wedding. Because right now my husband really cannot help us do anything because he lost his job.
Okay, thank you, Annie. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're also saddened by your father's loss, but you really are relying on the support and continued support that he gave. You have 3 kids and a husband who has just lost his job, and you have 2 boys that are in university, a daughter that is about to be married. And so for you, having that supplemented income is really important, particularly right now. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that? I do have a couple of questions.
No, not really.
Okay. So, we've kind of heard from both of you at this point. I'm hearing that Michael is willing to give half of the farm's earnings, and you're looking for him to contribute something. Is there an amount that has been decided upon? Is it a monthly amount? Because from my end, I'm hearing that he is willing to provide some funds and you're looking for funds. So it sounds like we're fairly close in what is being asked for.
Yeah, Tara, for me, that's not a amount. That amount in particular cannot really help do anything per my this. And then she talks about he now he'll be able to only cultivate half of the farm because we lost our father. And so my thing is, if there's a solution or if there's any way we can still cultivate the entire, or let's say farm on the entire land without actually doing half. So I'm willing to do that. But this earnings is really not going to help me. I'm not going to lie.
Okay, so because only half of the farm is going to be cultivated, it reduces what you were receiving
Yeah.
and in comparison to before.
Yeah.
Is there an amount, just so I have a number of what we're talking about, what you would, and were you receiving monthly payments from your dad, or was it bi-monthly?
Just a minute. No.
I don't believe we have an amount, actually.
No,
Okay,
I have a deed.
there's
What
no.
I have a deed is to split the earnings of the farms.
I'm
into-
saying.
So
okay,
half was for each of his children. And this is
okay,
exactly what I am proposing to keep doing. So my sister says that I have to think of my nieces and nephews, and that's exactly what I do. I know herself, because I will keep giving her half of the production of the farm, and I will work. I will work on the entire alone and entirely. So I will actually give her half of the results of my work. If all the thing to do is to sell the farm, and that means I don't have a job anymore myself, then I will need to be supported, and she will lose a monthly amount. We cannot say how much it is, because a farm produces more or less.
Or less.
Every year is not exactly the same. That depends. But it's a constant economic entry in the family while selling the farm means you're going to spend the money in just a few months for weddings, universities, and a husband who doesn't work. And this is going to be much worse in the long term for me, but also for her family.
So what I'm hearing is that, you know, another alternative is to sell the farm, but that might not work out in the long term as the most economically viable solution. You're saying, Michael, that having a farm brings in continued profit beyond a potential sale of it. Are there, you know, any other things that you two have thought about in terms of finding a solution? Perhaps, you know, hiring someone to replace your father so that you can cultivate the entire farm as opposed to just half. Or if you can only cultivate half, selling the livestock from the other half, developing a profit that way. You know, what can we put on the table as solutions for this?
Yes, Tara, Michael said, I'm proposing that we sell the farm and then I'm just going to spend the money, blah, blah, blah. That's not true. The reason why I proposed selling the farm is I don't want us to go back and forth with this issue because the last time was really very bad, which I don't want to repeat itself again. And since he doesn't want to talk to me and we've been communicating through our solicitors, I just feel that we should sell the farm and my part of the money, my husband and I are going to invest it in some kind of business that will give us we'll earn something from that so that we can take care of the boys and the girl so that we wouldn't have to, you know, have this banter with each other anytime we want to talk about this, because I really need some fixed amount, or let's say some money. I know this is coming in like what my dad used to do. But as my sister said, farming this year, you might yield something very, very good. The next year, it might not be like that. So there's this fluctuating of monthly allowance and all that. That was the reason why I actually proposed that we sell the farm.
Okay. I think this would be a good opportunity to have some individual sessions. Before we do that, Annie and Michael, what are you ideally looking to walk away with today? What does your ideal outcome look like?
For me, if there will be an agreement on the fact that the amounts our dad used to give me every month that I already have a budget for, that has really been helpful, I won't have an issue with that. If there are solutions that we can arrive at, that will best, you know, that will be in both of us our best interests, because as I said and she repeated, these are also his nephews and niece. Even if my husband no longer exists today, they are going to be his responsibility. So I just think that it's a family. Just let's arrive at something so that these kids can be taken care of. And my husband is also looking for a job, but until then, need that support.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Michael, what about you? What's your ideal outcome today?
On my side, I absolutely want to keep the farm. First of all, it has been what I have been working on my entire life. It was our father's land. It has also a very emotional value to me, but also an economic value to me. I earned my life out of it. And my sister also earns her life out of it, because her husband doesn't have a job. She doesn't work. And what the earnings that they have comes from the farm. Now, she says her husband needs a job and I should take care of my nephews and nieces and of her as well. And this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking care of them. I'm taking care of them, but saying the situation is not going to change for them. She will receive half of the earnings. Now, the farm was cultivated by my father and myself. which means now my father is not there. I need to recruit something to help me. And if the husband will be in a good will and will be willing to work properly, then I could actually recruit her husband. And then and then we will be two farming and two families living out of the farm, which is what has happened so far.
Thank you for sharing, Michael. So that is something new on the table that perhaps we can discuss. So Annie, you had mentioned, if the farm were sold, you and your husband would want to start a business to bring in more funds. But what Michael just proposed is that he join him in working your father's farm as a business that's already developed. How does that sound to you?
For me, my husband, he's never really been a farmer, but I don't think he's going to agree with this, but then that will be his decision. Maybe it's something we have to discuss with him, but I don't see, because he's never said anything about farming, he's never been a farmer and all that. And so it's something that we really have to discuss with him, and he has to make the decision. And if he's not willing, maybe if we have to keep the farm, and there's this assurance that I'm still going to get my monthly allowance to be able to take care of these kids, and it's not going to reduce in any way, we can hire someone to help Michael in the farm. But if my husband too will accept to be there, why not? I don't have an issue with that, but that's entirely his decision.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that it sounds like you're open to it. It's something you would have to discuss with your husband. And I just want to go back to, you did say that all decision makers were present today. So you don't feel you can make this decision on his behalf?
Oh, no.
Okay. Okay. However, you're open to the idea of him working the farm. And then at the end there, you also mentioned if that didn't happen, possibly hiring someone to work the farm with your brother.
Yes.
Michael, how do you feel about that as a possibility?
Well, what I feel is that I am already offering what my father gave to her. I'm already offering her to share half the outcome of my work. I cannot offer more than that. I'm supporting her family. It would be very good that her husband solves his own life and his own solution to support his family. But meanwhile, I am offering actually exactly what was provided by my father, half of the earning of the farm. And she's saying that this is something that she could accept. I mean, she says we don't sell the farm, provided that she keeps receiving the income that she received by my father. And this is what I'm suggesting to do. Only I cannot say, as my father could not say either, it will be an X amount of money, because that depends on how the farm is working, and that depends from one year to another. But I'm actually suggesting to keep the status quo that we had when my father lived. Then her family is receiving economical support every month, and that will keep in the long term.
Yeah, but you also did mention that you want my husband to come and work with you in the farm, and I'm saying that on the farm, and I'm saying that that decision cannot be made by me. That's entirely his decision. He's a man, independent of whatever, if I'm his wife, but we need to discuss it. And I'm saying if he comes to the conclusion that, okay, I'm going to help your brother in the farm and all that, I don't have any issue with that. Because I don't also want to take away something that Michael loves so much and he's emotionally attached to. Just because I need money right now, I'm not going to do that. That's my brother. And so if my husband will agree to work with him, I have no issue with that. But I'm also proposing another solution, which is If he says no, then I guess we have to forget about him and then get someone that will still help Michael so that we can have more productive. I don't have an issue.
Michael, how does that sound?
But that is fine for me. I keep the farm and I keep working in the farm, and we need to recruit someone. I cannot do on my own the work that we were doing, 2 people. So I need to recruit someone. If
Okay.
my sister agree with that, obviously the earning of the farm needs to be reduced by the salary of our employee. That will be a common employee of the 2 of us.
Yeah.
If the
Okay.
employee is her husband, then he will get more money. If the employee is another one, then she still will be having half of the earnings of the farm. That will be a bit less than what was before, because we have to pay an employee. But this is fine for me. And since the employee is going to work with me, I would very much like to have the freedom to choose the one that I think is going to be really operative.
Yes,
So, yeah, go ahead.
that's also where the issue is. And that's why I'm hoping that my husband will agree to this, because the amount of money our father used to give me was able to cater for the family, the boys, and then I use that to run the entire household. And if my sister is going to do half, it will still reduce the income, the monthly allowance. And if we are going to get somebody to help, hire someone to help Michael, it's still going to, reduce a portion a little, but that's why I'm saying that I hope my husband will agree to this. Even if he doesn't know how to farm, I'm sure Michael is open to help, train him so that it can be just a business, a family business, just like how our father and Michael used to do it. But my husband is not somebody that you can easily, and Michael knows that we can easily convince unless that's what he wants to do. But then again, as I said, we have to discuss that with him.
Okay, so it sounds like we have 2 really good options on the table. I'm kind of looking at them as 2 buckets. So one is that we bring in Annie's husband to work the farm with Michael. If that happens, there will be a split 50-50 in the income coming in, which will meet each of the needs of both Annie's family and Michael, your livelihood. And then the second option being that if Annie's husband doesn't want to work the farm, Michael would have the opportunity to choose a new employee, still paying funds to Annie. We would need to decide what that looks like, because it sounds like a salary for a new employee would tap into some of those funds. Is that correct?
Yeah, but then Tara, the issue, another one too is because our dad already was supporting me, my husband didn't think it was like he was supporting, even though we were taking care of the kids with that. But he has this pride that he needs to get out there and get another job to be able to help take care of, because raising 3 kids, and Michael doesn't have his family yet. And so when we now split the whole thing equally 50-50, and my husband still have to work in the farm and we still have to split it 50-50, and Michael, who doesn't have a family yet, me with my 3 kids, and my husband, I mean, they're still going. I see him, I'm not going to talk for him, but I see him raising his argument or this thing from that angle, Michael said, if he's still working at the farm, he's still going to give me whatever earnings that he makes at the end of the day, just like how our father used to. But that's just for now. Until then, until my husband gets his own job and all that. So this is really something that we really have to talk about. Other than that, I don't have an issue, but he's going to talk about that. He's going to talk about it.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like you're okay with the 50-50 split until if your husband were to start working the farm, you would want more. Is that what I'm hearing?
that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to talk for him, but he will say for him to because of the man I'm married to, and I know him very well, he's going to say that, why should I be working with your brother who has no family, and still we have to split it 50-50? So there's every high possibility that he might object. He will just say, okay, your brother should get someone to work with him over there, then you split your distance. I'll also get my job somewhere. I really don't want to come, because he's already raised that. I don't want to come in between your family issues with this whole thing, because your brother is here to settle. Why is he being, all this? He's not looking out for his nephews and niece and blah, blah, blah. So that's what I'm just for Michael to know that this is going to come up.
Well, something that I cannot stop saying, that I take care of my nephews and nieces, but the responsibility of them lies on their father and mother rather than on me. I am doing it because it's my will, but it's not my responsibility actually. So I find myself quite generous on that. And I don't like to be told that I should be taking care of them. I should not. I do it on my own will, first of all.
Yeah, but our dad was
Secondly,
taking care of them. Our dad was helping me take care of them. And since he's no more and the farm belongs to both of us, and if that's true, that's not your responsibility, that's my husband and I's responsibility. But if we have something to sustain us, and I think I'm just trying to plead with you and all that, because the last time we had the same argument with the solicitors, I don't want that to repeat, because we're trying to mediate. And so if that's not your responsibility, you are not willing to help your sister, there's no issue with that, then I think we should just sell the farm so that we take the earnings, whatever we get, to invest in our own private business, and we won't even have to deal with you anymore. We're just trying to come out with a solution.
this is where I think the solution becomes very difficult between ourselves, because I'm saying from the very beginning, I will be providing the same help that my father was providing. So nothing is going to change. I'm also saying, if I recruit your husband, you will also have the salary. He will be an employee. He will be having a salary. If he doesn't want to work with me, then I will need to employ another person who will be receiving the salary. And still, half of the earnings will be shared. I think I am offering something that I cannot understand that how it can be refused, honestly.
Okay, so I want to be sure on this. And also, my husband is, whatever belongs to me belongs to my uncle, my husband, which means the farm belongs to you and I. So my husband is also part of it. So at the end of the day, if my husband is working in the farm with you, it's also his farm indirectly, right? And so that's what I'm saying. If we have an agreement that he is going to earn his own salary as someone working with you, then the money that also used to come to me, Michael, I'm also still going to earn mine. I don't think it's an offer he will refuse. But if he's going to come to the farm and work with you, and we still have to just split it 50-50, I think that's where he is going to have an issue.
So it sounds like, if I may, that if your husband did work with Michael, right, this would be a family business, okay? They would each be making a salary. Michael would be making a salary, and your husband would be making a salary. And the profits from working the farm would be split. But that is on top of your husband making a new salary.
Yeah.
So in the end, he's making a new salary. He's working in the family business, and you're receiving the amount, completely untampered with, that you used to receive from your father.
Yeah.
And that sounds like what you're looking for. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And Michael, it also sounds like that's what you're looking for, is to give the same amount that your father gave to Annie, no more, no less. And regardless of whether it's Annie's husband or a new employee, someone else is still going to be making that salary. And you'll be making a salary as well, if I have that correctly. But you need someone else to make a salary to work the other half of the farm. Is that accurate?
Well, for me, if I hire another person, I will give him a salary. The two of us will be giving
Right.
that person a salary. The two of us.
Whoever works the farm
Once
with
the
you.
salary is paid, then we can say what are our earnings.
Right. Okay.
Now, if this means that now the property is going to be shared with my sister's husband, then I would rather prefer to have a third person as a bit, because it as an employee. Because what is clear for me is half of the farm belongs to her and half of the farm belongs to me, and her husband will be an employee, nothing else.
I'm not saying that.
An owner.
I'm not saying we should split it because my husband is working with you. You made a proposal. And I'm saying that let's also have this at the back of our mind that whatever belongs to me belongs to my husband. Whatever belongs to my husband belongs to me. And so the day he married me, he became part of our family. And so once we have this at the back of our mind, and then he is working with you at the farm, he's working with you as your brother-in-law. And when you refer to him as your employee, we got to be careful so that he is not going to have an issue with that. It's family working together at their family farm. And so if you have your salary and he also has his salary, he will be willing to work with you, Michael. That's what I want. I want us to get this clear so that we will not end up, because he will be the best person to work with you, because he is also family. We don't know if we bring an outsider as an employee to come and be part of you, we don't know if they're going to even give their all. And so now it's how are we going to convince my husband to be part of the family business? That's all. And if he is also going to get his salary for hours worked and all, I'm sure he'll be very, very happy to do that. Michael, he'll be happy to do that.
I mean, legally speaking, the farm belongs to you and to me. It doesn't belong to him.
No.
Once the money comes into your house, this is your business. All the money that comes into your house, how you share it with your husband is absolutely your business. I don't get into that, but the farms belong to the two of us. And then you have just said he has never, ever, ever farmed in his life. He needs to be trained. So if we want that the farm works, I will be directing the work in the farm because I am the one who knows how to do it.
But he doesn't, as I'm saying, I don't think he will have an issue with that if he wants to work. And another solution may be also, let's leave him out of the farm, recruit whoever you want to recruit, let him go and get his job. And then whatever earnings that you get out of it, you just give me the exact whatever our father was giving to me. Or the second option is we sell the farm so that I can establish a business with my husband.
I have suggested as from the very beginning, I work the farm. I share in half with you, exactly as our father did. I only want to warn that since I am alone now to farm the farm, I need an employee. So we will need to pay the employee, the two of us, 50-50. Everything is going to be 50-50.
So why do you have an issue with my husband now coming to work with you, Michael, and also get his earnings? And also being there because as the half of the farm belongs to me.
So if I may, it sounds like, right, what's happening here is that we've almost reached an agreement. You've both said that you're on board with keeping the farm. You've both said that you would be happy to work with Michael, to work with Annie's husband if he's willing. That will take some training, right? He hasn't farmed before, you mentioned Annie. And they would both have salaries. You've both agreed to that, and that you would both receive half of whatever the proceeds are that you make. Where I'm hearing disagreement is on about something that wasn't on the table. And this is the ownership of the farm. And I think what I'm hearing from this conversation is that Michael might feel that if all of a sudden the farm belongs to you and your husband, that is two people and he is one person, whereas before it was you and Michael, 1-to-1. So you might be able to see how that would concern Michael. I think legally speaking in the document, it is 50-50 owned by the two of you. But how you operate your business is something that we can discuss and put into writing in terms of if you want, you know, Annie's husband to see himself as part of this family business. I think that it's certainly some detail that we can work through, but also understanding that Michael is going to be teaching your husband how to work a farm, and we'll have to take assignments from Michael while he can, you know, go through that teaching process. But it sounds like the only difference is like there's a legal document that says it's owned 50-50 by the two of you. But then we're also talking about how we're just going to refer to the family farm as a family business. And Annie's husband being a part of that, but he's not technically in the legal contract of owning it.
No.
And that, so
No.
that just is maybe something we can work out through talking. But understanding that legally it is in Michael's name and you in Annie's name.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And so that sounds like you both understand that, but the way you'd like to talk about the family business going forward, if your husband joins, is a whole entity, but also understanding that legally it's only your names, the two of you,
It's
that
only
are on that document.
Michael and I. I keep saying that because Michael should also know for someone to give his or her best to something, they must have a sense of belonging. If someone feels that they do not belong, but they have to just work for for money just to earn something, they don't give their all. And this is also somebody who doesn't know how to farm. You have to teach him. But Michael, if you are teaching your brother-in-law and he feels he belongs, that Michael really wants him to be part of this, which we know that legally he is not part, my husband, Michael, will give all his best. So from this, like, I'm trying to convince my brother that, look, if my husband comes and you treat him like just a normal employee you've hired, he's not going to give his best, and he might just leave because he will feel like, oh, why is your brother trying to, berate me, even if that's not what Michael is doing. But if Michael makes his brother-in-law feel welcome and just, have this sense of belonging, trust me, he will give his all, and this farm may even yield more, it will be more profitable than even when our father and you, Michael, you were there, because my husband is younger. He has all the strength. He can do it with you. But legally, you and I know that the farm belongs to just the both of us. If today we decide to split it into two and I take 50% of mine and I go away, I will put it belongs to my husband and like my family, my husband and my kids and I. It's our family thing. But for now, it belongs to just you and I legally. But how do you make my husband help out from the bottom of his heart? It's just that sense of belonging. Nobody is pulling anything with you, Michael. It belongs to this, it doesn't. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But just make him feel comfortable and just give him that sense of belonging. And then I think he'll agree to whatever proposal we put out there. That's what I'm just trying to emphasize on.
Okay, I think we're changing now the subject of the conflict that brought us here. The conflict now is about how will I treat my brother-in-law and how will
Because
he
Michael, I know you.
in the farm. If it doesn't go well, he's an employee and he will be quit and it will get another employee. If he goes well, then everything will be perfect.
Then
but this
I
is
think
another issue.
my
How
husband,
will
let's
relate
leave my
to
husband, Tara. We will come to a conclusion. Let's leave my husband out of this. And
Okay.
I really don't want to go back and forth with this issue anymore. Let's leave my husband out of this. I really don't want to have this banter with my brother anymore. Our father is dead. I have my family to take care of. Let's just sell the farm. Let everybody move away with what they can go with. And then it will end there.
Okay, as the mediator can see, my sister doesn't have a reasoning that is favorable to reach an agreement that even that is good for her.
So
I
let's
have offered
pause.
all that I could.
Let's take a pause. I'm happy to go into separate breakouts if you'd like to. We have about 10 minutes left before we can reach an agreement. So what I would like to just say before we move into separate rooms is we're at a crossroads right now. It sounds like there are now two options on the table. One being that Michael hire an employee to work the other half of the farm. The other being the sale of the farm. And it sounds like having Annie's husband work on your team is no longer on the table. Unless you want it to be, but from each of you, is that no longer on the table?
No.
Okay. So we're talking about possibly hiring an employee or the sale of the farm. If you hire an employee, they'll be making a salary. You'll be splitting the earnings 50-50. But the difference being that that new employee's salary will affect the 50-50. Is that correct?
Well, we need to pay the employee, obviously. He will have a salary.
Okay. So the benefit there is that you're keeping the farm, your father's legacy. Annie, you had shared earlier that that was important to you, that you knew Michael cared about the farm. You'll be receiving still immediate earnings because the farm will continue to keep going. But with the aside that a new employee will be added, a new salary will be added. And so whatever the salary is will have to be deducted from the earnings.
What I'm proposing is if he's going to reduce my salary at the end of the month because Michael employed a new person, I just feel that let's just either sell the farm or share the farm 50-50. The acres of plot he would want to have, he can have it, I can have my side. So whatever I want to do with my side, then I will go and do that with it.
So Michael, how do you, so does it sounds like you
No,
are
this is
still
exactly what
talking
I
about.
don't want. I don't want to sell the farm. I want to
Okay.
keep it. I want to work on it. I want to share half with my sister. I don't think I can be more generous than that. I am as generous as
Actually, you are not
her
being
mother
generous because the farm
was,
belongs to
and I
both.
haven't finished,
The farm
I
belongs to us.
am as generous as a father. Can I be asked for more? If we sell, we lose all of us. I lose my work. I lose my earnings, and she will spend the money. Full stop. There will be no earnings for anyone.
As you said initially, whatever I do with my money, it's actually none of your business. So whether I invest it in a business or I spend it after that, it's not your business.
Yeah, but you want me to take care of your children.
As I said, because even if you employ somebody, Michael, you are not married, you don't have to be selfish. If we employ somebody and then you said because we employed somebody, it's going to reduce the amount of money I used to have at the end of the month. That's why I'm also suggesting that even if we don't sell the farm because you are so attached to the farm, but let's share the farm 50-50. Have your acres of land. Let me have my acres of land. Let everybody mind their business. So whatever I do with my 50 or half of the land, it's not your business. Or you employ somebody to help out with the farm, but it's still not going to affect what I get at the end of the month. I don't have an issue with that one.
But that means that I have to support the cost of the employee when I am working for the two of us. So I support all the expenses and you only get the benefits. I mean, this is out of any rational logic.
Yeah, but our father was
Didn't
doing
have an employee.
yes, that's what I said, but he was doing it and now he is no more. So what I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, if there is no agreement, I would propose you won't entirely lose the farm, but you take half of the acres. I will take half of my acres. So let me, if I also want to employ someone to farm, or my husband and I decides to farm, remember both of us were raised in the farm. So you and I know how to farm. I'm just busy with the kids. That's why I'm not able to do it. So if we divide the plot, keep yours, do your farming, whatever earnings you get, it belongs to you. The other half plots that belongs to me too, whatever my husband and I decide to do with it, we will also do. But I'm not entirely going to.
That will be a perfect solution
Yeah.
if splitting the farm will make the farm still productive. But the farm has been just one so far, and the entire territory of the farm is dedicated to the same business. And cutting pieces of land make absolutely impossible to keep going with the same business. We will need to start from zero, each one of half the farms. So we're going to lose money, you and I, because it's just one unique exploitation. It's not that easy to divide. If we sell the farm, we will sell it to only one person. It's just one unity.
So if I may, what was just proposed was splitting up the farm, which Michael, you're saying is economically inviable. But Annie, you were just talking about taking half of the land, hiring someone to cultivate it, just yourself and your husband.
I said, if we want, let me reiterate, I said, if we want, but my brother should also remember that I know how to farm. I only stopped because of the kids, because I was focused on the kids. And so if I get half of it, whatever my husband and I decide to do on it actually will no longer be my brother's business.
I mean, if the suggestion is that you will be farming with me, then it's fine. You will get your half because you will earn it, not because I give it to you. It will be even more fair.
Take care of the kids.
So
that's
here's
why I left the farm.
So if I may, you guys are kind of talking about the same thing. Annie, you know how to farm and you're comfortable farming, but you're taking care of your kids. However, your husband's unemployed right now. Is it possible that he could take care of the kids and that you farm with your brother? Is that something you'd be interested in doing?
No, my husband can't do it.
Well, let me say that the kids are one at university and the other one is going to marry. I don't know how many times they need to be taken care of.
Until then, so let my daughter marry and go. As for the boys, they still need me. They are in university and I still cook for them. They are not in boarding. They are not in the university. They come home and they go. I still have to be there because they are boys. I have to raise them. So when they are done with university, if we do not arrive at the very distant, then I think I will be doing my work. It's just a choice. I'm educated, you are educated. It's a choice to be at the farm, or we sell the farm and then I can use the money for my business.
I still don't understand. You're saying you want to farm because you know how to do it, but then you say you can't because you have to take care of your children.
No, I said remember.
You are not
I said remember that I can farm, Michael. I said remember that we were both brought up in the farm, on the farm, and you and I know how to farm. So it's not as if I don't know how to farm. So I'm telling you, if we were to split the farm into two and I decide to farm, I can still farm. But that's not what we are talking about. So that's why I said that. If at the end of the day, my husband, who I say we should leave him out, because I will even prefer for my husband to still maintain his respect to get a job somewhere. Because I won't stand, I know how Michael is with my husband. They may end up fighting. And I don't want my brother to disrespect my husband. And so let's leave my husband out of the business since the farm belongs to Michael and I. So now it's Michael and I trying to come to an agreement. And he said he cannot farm he can't do the farming alone, which is true. So if he's going to get somebody to help him out, my earnings is going to be reduced.
as will his.
Is going to, his, as I keep saying, I'm not trying to be selfish or anything, but let's be real here. Michael doesn't have a family. Anything he earns is entirely his. It's entirely his. I have a family to run. And so if Michael said, okay, his earnings is going to reduce, my earnings is going to reduce, I think that is where the problem is coming from. And if he's going to also employ somebody right now, I'm not saying I won't farm with Michael. I enjoy doing it and I miss farming. But that will be until my boys have graduated. Because they come first. I'm not going to compromise on that.
So let's pause here. I think we should do separate sessions. I think that we are very close because at this point, it's about hiring an additional staff member, but ensuring that what you each receive in earnings is fair. Michael's going to be working the land and supporting you. And you're also supporting him by agreeing not to sell the farm. So at this point, it's just a dollar amount in terms of how much will be split. It seems to me like it's fairly equal. Michael is the one working, but you are also a recipient of those earnings while also making sure that the farm is not sold. So unless you'd like to agree to a split now, we can create an agreement.
Yeah, just a quick one. I just want to make this last proposal to Michael. I will not, maybe because of money, then there will be this bad energy between the only brother I have left and all that. So I just want to propose this. My boys are in the university first, let's say first year, and my husband is looking for a job. And so if Michael gets someone to help him at the farm, and he assures me that even if we pay them, it's still not going to, or if we pay him, it's still not going to affect the monthly allowance our father used to give me until my husband gets a job. So if my husband gets a job, his earnings that he brings can also support with whatever Michael is giving me. So one, it's like fixed amount our father used to give me, whether we employ somebody or not, just for a period until my husband gets a job. Then whatever earnings Michael gets, we can each deduct it from our money, and I won't have any problem, even if it's less.
Okay, but you've been asked before how much you were receiving. You were not receiving the same thing every month. You were receiving half of the earnings. There is not a fixed amount your father gave to you. I am proposing to do exactly the same. I will give you half the earnings.
Yeah, there was, even though there was no fixed amount, but there was this amount of money that really didn't affect the amount I use in taking care of the kids. And our father, even from his own pockets, still used to give me something, even if I needed it after whatever we split from. I'm not saying you should do that. That's not your responsibility. He was supporting his daughter and his grandchildren. That's not your responsibility. But I'm just saying, and I don't want to say something and then you say, oh, maybe I'm emotionally blackmailing you or something. No, I don't want to say that. But I'm just pleading, if my husband and I were not to be alive today, you are still going to take in your nephews and your niece. Michael, I know you. I know you are attached to those children. And so for that purpose, I'm not saying that continue to just give me that fixed one. I'm saying until my husband lands himself a job. And when those boys are also done, it's just like 2 years. When those boys are also done, I will also join you at the farm.
Okay. How long will your husband take to get a job?
We are on the job hunt. That's why
he may not be recruited.
What would be a feasible amount of time that you could agree to?
let's say, Tara, just 6 months, I think 6 months is enough. And as I'm saying, I will still, even if my husband gets a job and these boys get to the third year, they are matured enough, they can do stuff by themselves, then I can join Michael at the farm and farm with him because I actually miss farming.
I will
So-
accept 6 months on one
Okay.
condition. All the money I give will go directly to the children.
That's the reason why the money.
I'm supporting my nephew and my niece.
Yeah,
I will give
that's exactly, that's what the money has always been used for. That's what the money has always been used for, not for their father. I think that's why he's not happy, because he needs to do something. He's not happy staying at home and being fed by us, Michael. And I think
Okay.
that's
asking me to
why.
support your children. You're asking me to support your children. This
Yeah,
is
but that's
something
what. But
I will do with
Okay.
pleasure.
So we're
It will
very,
help
very
them.
close. Thank you
Yeah.
both. I
Yeah.
do want to kind of wrap what we've agreed to so far. So you're agreeing to keep the farm and not to sell it.
Yes.
You're agreeing to hiring a new staff member on to work to cultivate 100% of the farm.
Yes.
And then Michael will continue to receive a salary. The new hire will receive a salary, and the earnings will be split evenly, 50-50. There will be a 6-month leeway period where the 50-50 split, you'll continue to get as much as you got with your father. There is no specific amount, so it's just 50-50 for 6 months while your husband gets a job. All of the earnings that you receive will go directly towards your children.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's a specific a check
My
or something.
father used to give me the money, and then I make sure I get them some food, pay their fees, whatever involves their education. That's actually what I'm scared of, because I want to be able to do that, because we can't have the kids dropping out because we couldn't pay fees or take care of them and all that. So the money is just for the food and taking care of
Okay.
them. That's my priority.
So, Michael, are you fine with, I'm not sure if you used to send a check or what form of payment, but are you fine with sticking with the same form of payment you were using before?
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
same. I will share
Okay.
half of the production, and I will help the children during 6 months.
Okay, half of the production. And then I think and then once your
And after
children,
6 months, my sister comes and works with me. So we don't need to have an employee.
okay, that was the one question. So the hire will be a short-term hire for 6 months. And
Mhm.
then Annie, you will work the farm with Michael.
Michael maybe he didn't get what I said. The 6 months is to plead with her, because he wanted to know a time frame that my husband possibly may get his job. And I said,
Right.
can you give us 6 months, because he's on a job hunt and he wants to work more than anything else so that he can support his family. That's his pride. And so I said, the boys are now going to their 2nd year. I just want to be able to get them to their 3rd year. Once they are there, they are matured enough to do stuff for themselves, even if I'm not there.
Okay,
Then
so
I will
after
be
1
working.
year.
Yes. So let's say
Okay.
1 year for me to be able to
Okay.
join.
So
Okay, so
in
I
1 year.
provide help to the children for 6 months, and because it's a 6 months period for your husband to get a job. And I reach someone only for 1 year, because after 1 year you will be coming and farm with me.
Yeah, that was it. Exactly.
So I think the only thing we need to clarify is after 6 months, will you still be doing the 50-50 split on earnings?
We said 6 months. If my husband, it is still going to be the same. Nothing is going to change. But once my husband gets his job, remember the money, as my brother said, he's not part of the family business. So this is just Michael and I.
Right.
So still it's just going to be the 50-50. And
Okay.
then within that 1 year, the boys, they'll be in their 3rd year. Then I can also get back to work with my brother. And so
Okay.
now my husband has his job. I'm also still with my family business, and the kids are almost about to complete. By then, the girl would have been married. So she will be out of the picture. Then it will just be the boys.
Okay. So up until 6 months, you'll be doing the 50-50 split. But I guess the only difference between now and when 6 months end is that the 50-50 split, Michael will still ensure that it's close to what your father was giving you,
Yeah.
even if less is coming in. And
Yeah.
after 6 months, whatever 50-50 is, that just is what it
That's-
is.
Yeah.
And Michael, are you agreeing to that as well
Yeah,
for 6 months?
For 6
Okay.
months. Yeah.
Okay. So congratulations to you both. You've reached an agreement. We can put this into writing. Do. Do you have any other questions or concerns?
No, I
Still
think we
standing.
reached an agreement. We shouldn't open new issues because we're
Good.
getting.
All right.
We are
Very
fine.
good. You've reached an agreement. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys are very good actors.
All right, don't be.
I was like,
the way
Modesta, I remember.
Paloma to the thing. So see, I'm like, hey, so at one point you forget that you actually.
I was like, oh, I forgot how good an actress
Yeah,
Modesta
but
is.
these things are reality. These are the things that happen out there, right? Yeah. Sometimes we allow money come in between families, and then you see families dividing because of money and properties. And if you really can have a rethink, nobody is going to move away from this world with anything. You just need enough to survive. But you see family. Oh, hi, Francis, you are here.
Yeah, while I was feeling bad for Tara, at the same time I was so happy to see the two of you truly get into, the actual role playing itself. So, I think at this point what we are gonna do is we will go into having our debrief, and I would love to have observer go first, and then we will come to parties, and then we will come to mediator after on. The purpose of this debrief, number one, I feel like whenever we are giving the debrief, all the parties will have opportunity to practice their session, but the debrief will be focused on what did you see the mediator do well, what you have question on. And when you're giving your debrief or when you're giving your response, I ask that you be very specific on the key things that you have seen, key things that you have questions on, and then we will have a deeper conversation afterward. That being said, I'm gonna turn back to you, Mr. Lam, to specifically, identify key things that you have seen mediator do well, and also ask any specific questions regarding the key things that you have question on that you have observed from today's session.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, and I was very impressed by Tara. This is the first time I see her. I was very impressed by the way she listened to both parties. I think she brought parties to open themselves by listening to them, by giving them the opportunity to talk. And the way she was summarizing, that was awesome. Because I don't know whether she was taking notes or not, but she understood perfectly both parties and she was summarizing correctly. And I was very impressed. And also, the questions she was asking, because she was asking very objective questions. I mean, she focused on the problem. She was very focused. I didn't see her go out of the mediation process. The core subject of the mediation was about selling a farm or keeping the farm, working on it, and sharing the production. And she didn't go beyond that. So I was very impressed with her way of focusing on matters. I appreciate that. Thank you, Tara. I will tell you that I am not, I haven't done any mediation yet, but this one inspired me a lot.
Thank you.
And at a moment, I felt in a live mediation. I was really, I found myself in a true mediation. And the way you were taking things seriously, I really appreciated that again.
Mm.
The only question I would like to ask was about the beginning of the mediation. When you came first, I don't know whether you had already discussed with parties or not, but I didn't see you introducing yourself and telling them how you would like to be named or addressed to as a mediator. You just ask them to introduce themselves and tell you how they would like to be addressed to. I don't know whether this is the way it should go, or if you just were aware of the fact that they already know you. So this is what I had to say. Thank you very much. I appreciate.
Thank you. That's a good point. The mediations I've done so far have been co-mediated, and it just happens that the other mediator has said, I'm so-and-so, and this is so-and-so. So you're right. I think I did forget to do that. I was focused on making sure the parties introduce themselves.
Perfect. Thank you so very much, Mr. Lam. And, the purpose of giving this feedback is, of course, like number one, to allow the mediator that opportunity to think that, oh, wait, did I forget this? Should I have done this? And it sounds like for today's session, you forgot to introduce yourself, but you did not intentionally opted to not introduce yourself.
No, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now we are going to move on to the parties. How do you feel mediation went today?
For me, it was, fantastic, and it brought me back to our mediation simulations. And sometimes you just forget yourself. But Tara did listen attentively, and one thing I realized was that she didn't digress, like she didn't go off the main issues, even sometimes when we were trying not to really, but Tara was on top of, and she made it easier for us to arrive at an agreement. And then she also made sure that she brought us back to the main purpose, like don't digress, don't just go here, and she listened, because when you have a mediator who doesn't listen and talk in between, it also becomes frustrating. You end up being upset. But she was quiet, and then you feel that you can pour your heart out and you are just here for a solution. And I think that's why we really we compromised, and then we arrived at. But overall, I enjoyed the session, and I also forgot that we were really acting. I thought and yeah, Tara, you did very, very well.
Thank
Very
you.
well, yeah.
Thanks,
Francis, I did enjoy the session. Even though my brother was forgetting that we were still family, and I think she wanted to come in when I said my husband is part of it, but that's also the reality. Once somebody marries into a family, even if it's not legally, but the person is also family, and we look out for each other. But overall, it was fantastic.
Absolutely.
I think I'm starting my day with happiness,
All right, thank you. Before Paloma come in, I want to say one thing. The last time when we met, I remember sharing with Paloma, and Lam was also there. I said, although mediators don't have the power to make decisions in the mediation, they have a crucial tools at their disposal, which is the process. You know, sometimes parties come to mediation when they are very certain about what they want, but also there are times when they come to mediation when they are not very clear about what they want, right? And even if parties come to mediation with a clear picture as to exactly what they want, when facts get tangled with emotion, even those things that they had it very clear at the beginning tend to get lost. And as a mediator, number one, what you don't want to do is allow parties to hijack the process. Party can hijack the process by going off the script or going beyond the scope of what mediation is. They can also hijack the process by not listening to each other and so forth. So I think that for today's session, I agree with Modesta that Tara really held firm onto the process by bringing parties back to mediation, even when they attempted to go outside what it is that they came to mediation to explore today.
Thank you.
All right, Paloma, the platform is yours.
Okay. I have to say, there was a moment when I thought we will not get an agreement.
Same.
More and more complicated. There was a moment where I was more afraid about working with my brother-in-law than about selling the farm. So I was almost close to giving. And exactly, I think what was very interesting is that Tara was listening, and leaving us the floor to explode a little bit. But then she came back very calm, like not affected emotionally, which I find is extremely difficult in this situation. and brought us to the center and saying, but you are almost there. You almost have an agreement. I mean, you are very close to it. What needs to be resolved is this and this, these two issues. And then the power of concentrating the issues on what it was still relevant, and a way of giving acknowledging that the rest had already been agreed and we didn't need to discuss anymore. That was very powerful, I would say.
Thank you. That's helpful.
And indirectly, she will make you feel like you are here for a solution after your solicitors. So just better arrive at something without even saying it. So we also, I had to remind myself, we can't live here without a solution, because this is pretty easy. We just have to also consider the family roots, the family history, and just not be selfish because at the moment you need money to do something. So it came back to my mind and I'm like, okay, just propose something, your brother will agree to it. And then, especially when you put timeline, people become secure. When you put a timeline on something, at least they know that I can sacrifice for 6 months. And so let's just agree on that. And then you also have a reminder that I have to do this within 6 months so that my brother will not be disappointed. And so, yeah, it was interesting. Yeah.
Good.
Absolutely. I want to just add something a little bit about body language. Body language is very, very, very important in the mediation, regardless of how eloquent you can speak. If your body language is all over the place, you are gonna make parties even more
Nervous.
more nervous. You even gonna make them more stuck in their position. And I agree with Paloma that your calm body demeanor made parties at ease, because this case specifically, this is a very, very difficult case, because it's not just about selling the property or not selling the property, but it's about what the attachment
Yeah.
These parties have to this property,
Yeah.
It's not just only the attachment to the property, but also the family. So Annie have, family values with her brother, but also she have family on her own, right?
Right.
So that's what makes it so difficult.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Before I give you the platform, Tara, I'm going to ask Pat this one more time. Do you feel like Mediator truly listened and identify what was crucial or what was very important to you?
For me, yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Awesome.
she did.
Awesome.
She did.
Clara, the platform is yours. How do you feel like you did in this mediation? What do you have question on?
Yeah, I think like with the emotional turmoil between the two of them, and they really did step into their roles. I was like, I felt the same way as Paloma at one point. I was like, oh my God, we're not going to reach an agreement. Because once we went through the whole thing about, oh, maybe Annie's husband can work the land. And then it became very clear after we had spent so much time on it that that just wasn't going to be feasible. And there was also the piece that, we had said up front, are all the decision makers here? So I was like, I want to remind her that she did say all the decision makers are here, but I don't want to like rock the boat the wrong way. So I kind of worked it in. But I also was trying to push myself to, I usually do breakout groups, but the way the conversation was going, there were a couple of times where I was like, I should have done it. And I don't know if that would have helped to de-escalate at any point if I had separated them. But with this conflict, I also felt it was important to give them, there was stuff they needed to like work through, the emotions. So I didn't want to separate them and then them not be able to do that. Because I do think that that kind of helped, but at some point it did feel like it was escalating maybe unnecessarily, or getting dragged out. So I am curious if you think breakout rooms would have been more helpful at any point. But I was trying to give space to like let them have the conversation they needed to have. But it was like a solid 50 minutes of them just kind of like, I would bring them back, but it was a lot of like listening, and I think it was one of my more tiring mediations because they really stayed in their roles the whole time. And there was the financial piece, but it was also, like you said, like really two families and then the legacy of their father. So I think that's one of my questions, is if you think you would have liked to have been separated at any point, if you think that would have helped. Or if you felt like you got through more by being in a joint session.
Well, let me first give parties, to answer that, whether they feel like caucus would have been better before I jump in.
Yeah, for me, if it was just about my brother and I think we would have a very straightforward, shorter kind of mediation. But if it also involves a husband that you are under, you cannot really get up and make decisions just like that, just because it's family. Yes, that's your family that you came from, but you also have your family. And so that's why I kept saying, I can't make decisions for my husband, but then so I know my husband, what maybe he might say. And then I also know my brother and my husband, they don't really, they are not really
the dynamics, but that was important. That was important to hear, because it became very clear, like all of a sudden, like, oh, even if he agreed to work with him, their relationship sounds like it wouldn't necessarily work out.
It wouldn't, because at one point I was about to arrive. Then I remember that, okay, you have a husband, so you can't make decisions just like that. So I was in the middle, trying not to lose my brother, but then I didn't also want to lose my husband. And so, that's why all of a sudden I said, let's leave my husband, let him get his own job. Then when the boys are settled, then I can come back and be with Michael so that we can take care of the family stuff. And so for me, if it was straightforward between my sister and I, would have had a more shorter resolution, you know, but it also involved a man, which is my husband. Yeah.
On my side, there was about caucus. There was a moment where I thought it's absolutely necessary because we are starting to get to have a conflict that is bigger than what it was at the beginning. Actually, it was like new elements involved, and our position were starting to be more apart to each other. So there was a moment where I thought it will be easier to caucus, but it's true that at the end it wasn't necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wrote actually wrote a few points regarding caucus, and the first thing that I wrote was, all right, when is it appropriate to take parties, you know, in a private setting? You have, you know, you talked about, all right, well, it's a good time now to, you know, maybe go for caucus, but it seems like, you know, you talk yourself out of actually doing that, you know. And
they would say something where, or I would leave them with something where I felt like they were then having a productive conversation. And I was like,
and we also didn't really want to go into the caucus. We did
like the energy from them. I was like, I don't know if they're feeling that. Like it's hard over Zoom though, but I was like, I know that they're fighting, but it's also productive. So
just want to arrive at something, and just for me, that's where my focus was. There was no need for this particular mediation because I was also putting at the back of my mind is that family, you know?
Yeah, and separating a family. But I did feel a little bit from Michael that a caucus, like you had other concerns you didn't necessarily want to voice here in front. So I was should have, I think at one point done a short caucus with each of you.
Excuse me for jumping in at this moment, but it's 5:30 now, and I have another commitment. I will need to leave now. It was very interesting. It has been very a big learning for me. So I hope we will meet again in this type of exercises. It's very useful. Thank you very much to you, Francis, and thank you to all the others for playing so well.
Thank you, Paloma.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, Paloma.
Well, although I can just give few feedbacks, specifically, let's say regarding caucus, I think that, let's say during your introduction, one thing that you could have done is, I know you have talked about, you know, going in for caucus, but another thing that you could have done is to let parties know that the same way you can ask them to go for caucus, they too can ask you to go for caucus if they feel like, you know, at this point, I think I'd rather be in a private setting, you know, that assuming you have, let's say, given that option to parties, probably Michael would have, you know, been more comfortable with asking to go for caucus. Now I had mentioned that you talked about, you know, going in for caucus during the session, but you actually did not do it, which then brought me to, you know, self-intelligence. You know, when you see that, maybe I should take parties for caucus, the question is, why do you want to take parties to caucus? Are you taking parties to caucus because you're not, let's say, comfortable with the level of emotion that you're seeing, or you want to take parties to caucus because you see like the parties have reached a point where they cannot proceed, or where, you know, they will not be able to make any progress if you are to leave them in a private setting, I mean, in a joint setting, which in this case, although your instinct told you on several occasions that maybe I should take parties into caucus right now, your system too came in and probably told you that, you know what, actually they're making progress right now. Although my system one is telling me that I should go for, take them, for caucus, maybe it's not gonna make any big difference, and there is no, let's say, a hard rule as to how or when to go for private caucus with the parties. It all boils down to you having that self-intelligence to have a realization of, all right, I see what is happening. I think I can break past this if I do this, or if I take parties away from here.
Yeah.
But one thing that you don't want to do is, let's say, take parties to caucus because you as a mediator are not comfortable with the emotion you're seeing.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, I didn't, at one point it was escalating their emotions, but they were also talking about a sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, they were just close, but now they're getting further away. And so I think I said something like, we should do joint sessions, but this is what I'm seeing. And all of a sudden it switched to, oh yeah, that's where we were. And now we can work with that. And they moved away from the sale. So I think if they had continued to erupt, and not seen the option with, hiring someone, if they had kept going in the direction of the sale, then I would have said, let's split. But they quickly kind of came back to, oh yeah, let's make that work, hiring somebody. But yeah, I think you're right. Like my intuition, it was getting tense at some point, and I was like, maybe I should break them up. I don't want it to get too heated. But I think they were able to work through their issues, keeping it together. So
yeah.
Just a quick question, Francis. In
Yes.
mediation, should it always be this hard or easy? Or each mediation session comes with their own issues and time and whatever? Yeah, because ours it started, and for me, I just wanted us to arrive at something, but then too, I forgot that there was a full-blown man in the picture that I needed to consider too. And so I had to now bring him in, which of course, Michael was not in agreement. Of course, you have to also understand him. So the whole thing was like, sometimes it's smooth, sometimes it's difficult, but I think people always end up at for mediation because initially they couldn't arrive at something. So sometimes they'll still come into mediation sessions with the same energy, hoping for a resolution, right? And I think that's what just happened, because solicitors most of the time, I'm sure even to become a lawyer, you go through mediation, negotiations, and all that. But they are not people that really practice mediation and negotiation. They are always on the legal side, so they are not the same as us. And so you can sometimes be dealing with a lawyer, and the lawyer will speak or will talk, and you are now asking, did they take negotiation or mediation class during their law school? Because personally, I encountered one recently, and I now had to call a whole Supreme Court judge back at home, asking him these same questions: that how can a lawyer who is supposed to be someone's agent, who is supposed to come and speak on behalf of the person, call you, and the person is now behaving like the issue is now her personal issue instead of being an agent, right? And I was confused because, yes, I may not be a lawyer, but I am also somebody who have studied mediation, negotiation. In fact, these are my electives. Tara and I, we took that, especially negotiation. And so especially if you are a family lawyer, it involves kids. You ought to be careful and not to come and attack the person you are supposed to come and negotiate with. So I actually got confused with the whole thing. When is it legal to represent? When are you supposed to mediate? Because You are mediating because you don't want it in court, right? So
Mhm.
why would you come and attack the person you are supposed to come and mediate with? And
Mhm.
so the judge told me that maybe there is something I do not know. Maybe there's some level of intimacy between the lawyer and your ex. So
Mhm.
instead of her coming as an agent, she's coming as a rival, you know? And so I just requested, I don't want to deal with such a lawyer again. But this really helped me because I took a course in negotiation and mediation where I know that it's independent. Right, Tara? It's independent. You
Impartial,
can
yeah.
try to be part of it, or you can say no. And so I'm very happy that today we are able to take this, and maybe it has cleared my mind on that,
Mhm.
you know.
I have a few things to say. Well, lawyers can be intimidating, when they're in a mediation. But one thing that I can tell you is that actually lawyers, they want to show that I know what I'm doing.
When they don't know,
I am smart, but they really don't know.
they
They
really,
really don't know. I have gone to law school in Uganda and law school here in America. One thing that I can tell you is that law school really doesn't prepare lawyers to become effective
mediate.
negotiators or mediators at all,
That's
right?
true.
So, as a mediator, when you, let's say, are mediating a case where there is a lawyer present, it is very, very, very important before you even start the actual mediation to clearly set out ground rule where
Mhm,
all the parties know
mhm.
what they're in mediation for, what they're doing, and what they cannot do,
Do.
right? Now,
Yes.
having that ground rule sort of like uh, whenever you see, let's say, for example, lawyers stepping, out of what they ought to do, you can say, hey, you can bring them back to, the ground rule that you have set earlier on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think maybe because I took a course on negotiation and mediation, she rather ended up feeling intimidated. And because I challenged her and then I tried to remind her of what she's supposed to do and what she's not supposed to do. So I think she became defensive and thought I was rather, but I remembered what Professor Green and then Alan taught me, and I fired back. And now she's a lawyer now. She got upset and said, and I said, I'm not your client. Represent your, don't come and cross. And I'm really very happy that we are doing this, and I would really like to continue on this journey, no matter where I find myself, because it's really very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me come back. I know that we're running out of time. Let me come back to your Clara real quick. Um, Specifically, one thing that I want to acknowledge, that you did very well in terms of, let's say, knowledge-wise, your introduction was on point. You talked about, what mediation is, the basic principles that govern mediation, what you can and cannot do as a mediator, and, how you are going to facilitate the process. And there is no one answer to that because every mediator have their own unique way of facilitating the process. The only thing that you have to mention is, of course, the key thing is the basic principles. You have to let parties know that at the beginning. So in regard to the knowledge piece, your introduction was on point. And I love how you were introducing or how you introduce the session. You don't want it to make like you teaching parties how to do it. You know what I
Right.
mean? You
Yeah,
want
no.
it to make sort of like interactive. You
Mhm.
have a conversation with them, which I think you did very well. And now when I go to the actual skill, they have already talked about, your active listening, which I absolutely which I absolutely agree with. It was, on point. You summarize what the parties have said. what I tell people is that don't stop at summarizing. Give them the opportunity to clarify whether your summary is in fact what they have said, which you did, and I think you did very well. Again, don't stop at giving them the opportunity to confirm. Ask them whether there is anything else that they
Okay.
want to add before you move to the next step, or before you move to the next party, which you did also, that I thought was very important. Acknowledging and validating emotion. That is another important thing, which you did at the beginning. I'm
Yep.
sorry about your loss,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, she got that right? And your neutral tone of language, it sounds like, if I'm hearing correctly, it seems like that is, when I was hearing you saying that, I'm like, oh wow, she is a pro. So that one was, crucial.
Thanks.
We talked about setting goals, which I think you did very well. You give parties the opportunity to, for example, at the beginning, ask them what is their ideal outcome from the mediation, which I thought was epic, Now, coming to the point of questions, you were asking good questions, but most of your questioning was like you will summarize and then you ask close-ended question to confirm whether your summary is good or whether you summarize correctly. That is a good way of asking question, but that is one way of asking question.
Yeah.
You could ask open-ended question which allow party to expand on what they have already said, as opposed to confirming that, yes, that is correct what I have said.
Okay.
Which, for today's session, I thought your questioning was good, but you could have used more open-ended question to allow them to think beyond or to think outside.
Yep.
Now, we already talked about summarizing. Another thing that I want to talk about is mirroring. Mirroring. People oftentimes get mirroring and summary mixed up. For me, the way I understand it, mirroring is important, is kind of different from just summarizing, because number one, when you mirror, you're talking about the facts, you're talking about the emotion behind that fact, and you're talking about a reality check or why that is important. Those three things come in when you are mirroring.
Okay.
Which today, I felt like, yes, you did mirror, but you could have used more mirroring, especially when, at the time when, for example, you were thinking about, oh, maybe at this point, parties could go to a private setting, because at that point, I felt like the emotion was already, getting in.
Yeah.
And another way of breaking that cycle could have been more mirroring.
So could I say something like, what would I say? Like, how are you feeling about where we are right now? Do you want to move in the direction of hiring someone, or are you really going to be satisfied with a sale? Something like that.
Now, number one, let's say the selling firm was another option. Hiring somebody was another option. Then you talked about how you're feeling right now, but let me leave at hiring somebody and selling the farm. Let me leave at those two. Now, for example, let's say hiring somebody. Why is it important that they want to hire somebody? Right? And asking why it is important to hire somebody, it goes hand in hand with, all right, the emotion behind not selling the land, but keeping the family farm and getting somebody to continue with the legacy of what they have been doing,
Okay.
That is one component that you could have, let's say, handled, assuming you had mirror. Then let's go to the sale. Sale was another fact, right? She wanted to sell the land. But why does she want to sell the land? Is it because of the financial constraint that she's going through? Is it because of the, let's say, the uncertainties as a result of losing the parents, losing our dad? So that is the emotion tied together with the facts. And why is it now like reality checking? When you come to reality checking, she want to sell the land. It is fact. Why she want to sell the land will give them opportunity to uncover or unravel the emotion behind it. And then what next? If they sell the land, I want to start business, then you can ask question of, how, for example, they can achieve that objective, in ways that is more than just selling off land, which in fact, let me not talk about how they can sell the land. Let me go to the next point that I wanted to make, which was the actual negotiation itself. Now, what I do personally when it comes to negotiation, first and foremost, I start with brainstorm, right?
Okay.
And all of you have been trained by Alan that talked about expanding the pie before dividing it, right? So I start with my brainstorm. And when I'm doing brainstorm, normally I share my screen and say, all right, so now we are at option generation. Let's raise all the ideas as possible. And I'm gonna write these ideas down. None of these ideas constitute an agreement. And at this point, I ask both of you to think creatively and raise as many ideas as possible.
Okay.
Why that is important? Number one, you're giving parties opportunity to generate options, right?
Yep.
But also number two, you are breaking the barriers of, this was Michael's idea, this was Annie's idea. Both of them are now collaboratively thinking about possible options. And then once they have exhausted all the options, that is now where I go to evaluation,
Okay.
And when I'm writing options, I don't write option as, for example, Michael said this, and he said this,
Right. That's so nice. Yeah, such a good point. I love that.
So talked about option generation, talked about caucus, talked about mirroring. I think that's what pretty much it.
That was so helpful. Thank you. When you share your screen and do like a brainstorm, are you just doing like a bulleted list in Word?
Yeah, just bullet points. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Nothing fancy. Okay, cool.
Nothing fancy, and I leave out like specific identifiers that make, for example, party A feels like this is a question, this is an option from party B. And I tell you what is so interesting with that is sometimes by the time you reach an option evaluation stage, parties have forgotten who raised what.
Yeah, who said what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that.
I think those were pretty much it. Any question from any of you?
Yeah, I have one last question. In today's session, we were able to come up to an agreement. And now what I want is to see Tara in a situation where the process is so emotional that we can come up to any agreement. So if you have the opportunity to have a session in which we don't have any agreement, I will be very happy. And that will help me to see, as a new mediator, how the mediator is going to handle the situation.
Mhm.
Because if I take today's mediator's case, her calmness was really disarming. So I would like to see whether the mediator is going to get a little bit emotional or not, because it's a human thing. We
Mhm.
are emotional human beings. So we are more emotional than rational. And
Mhm.
I think it's normal to be emotional. So please, if we can have a session in which we have too much emotions and without any agreement, I'll be very happy. Thank you.
Absolutely. This is just one of the many. Yes, please.
Yeah, just a quick one. Tara is naturally a very calm person. So you can make noise, you can do everything. Tara will still remain like this. And she was our TA for negotiation class, and she was as calm as this, even when we are upset, when we go frustrated, putting our frustrations on her, she will still remain like this. But somebody like me mediating, and then I noticed that there's a slight chance that you're arriving at a decision, then one bring in another thing. Maybe in that instance, I may feel a little, because I'm not as calm as Tara. I may forget and just go like, but you both are agreeing at what happened then, a little bit of emotions, but not as. So I just wanted to talk about that. The way she handled it, I don't think I will pass that test.
Yes, you could.
Okay,
Yes, you could.
okay, thank you for telling me that, because I wonder if she were my wife, how I would handle the situation when I get angry in my house.
Mm.
I put on my mediator cap for all mediations, Lamb.
And yeah, and moving forward, all of us are going to have opportunities to mediate, and there will be lots of actual simulation that will not reach an agreement. So you will definitely get to see. But before we go, at the beginning of the sessions, there was a lot of questions of, for example, what if we don't agree, what happens,
Yeah.
and if we reach an agreement, then what? Those are key, those are two distinctions which I thought you answered very well. If we reach an agreement, then what? Right?
Yeah.
Now, that answer would vary if, for example, it depends on where.
Depending.
Absolutely. And then also, if we did not reach an agreement, then what? That
Right.
answer will also vary,
Okay.
If, let's say, I know, Tara, you want to open your own mediation practice. It's going to be different if you are an independent mediator or absolutely private mediator. You're going to have a different answer, because at that point you're not at liberty, you're not connected with any court or anything of that kind.
Right.
Than if, let's say, you are a court annexed mediator or you are a community mediation service provider that is directly connected to the court. Because in that way, if you're a court annexed if you are a court annexed mediation program, most of your cases is coming directly from the court.
Yep.
If you are a private mediator, your cases are coming directly from the practice.
Yeah.
Now the question, part of why I'm going deeper into that is, earlier on, you mentioned that, for example, if you did not reach an agreement, then we can file it to the court or something of that kind, right?
I was trying to look in my instructions, like if this were coming in through the court or not. And I was like, oh, we'll just have to talk to Francis about this after, because I don't know if it's like, I was like, it's over land and they were missing the will, or they have a contract. I mean, their names are on some legal document. So it would, I imagine, go to litigation at some point, but I didn't know if it was like a small claim coming in from a court or not.
What you don't do.
Sorry to interrupt you, Francis. One last question. I know that this session was recorded. Are you going to share it so that we can vision it afterwards?
Eventually, yes. Eventually I will, but I know that probably we will have to edit, we'll have to edit to make it more professional and more better. But eventually.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
In conclusion, one thing that I want to say before I want to say is that when parties ask you for that question and you're unsure of what exactly is, even if you're sure what the next step is, it is not your responsibility to tell them, because then parties might perceive it as we are doing this as instructed by the mediator.
Okay.
So for me, if I'm in that situation, what I do, if they ask me what is next, I tell them mediation is one of the several mechanisms they can use for addressing, their grievances, including court, then I mentioned all the avenues available out there, and leave it for them to decide, all right, which one is appropriate for us, including coming back to mediation.